fanatics, welcome back to the channel. So in the last video you guys helped me put in a 12-volt bus bar and a ground bar in the battery box underneath the front passenger seat in preparation for the expansion of power for an audio setup. So today I figured I'd show you what I have in store next. So I picked up two pairs of these. These are Kicker Marine grade KM65s. They're a 6.5 inch driver with a 3/4 inch tweeter. From what I've seen, these sound pretty good. They have a nice good efficiency, a sensitivity rating and everything. So I think with a decent amount of power, these things should scream loud enough for me to be able to hear, even with the doors off, even behind the noise of 37, 38 inch tires as we're going down the street. So I figure this is probably the best way to go about doing this. But anyways, wanted to show you kind of what I had in store. So I'm a bit of an audio nut when it comes to doing things. I don't like to do anything normal, so I'm always trying to kind of do something that's a little bit different and try to kind of expand the capabilities of stuff. So rather than put in a center console, which I know a lot of people do that, kind of the little boombox setup with things sitting in the middle, it's nice and easy, and I understand that. That's pretty typical. I just decided I'd try to do something a little bit different, try to expand the sound stage, especially from the front, and try to get things as wide as I possibly can. So let me show you kind of what I have in mind, and we'll get busy building toward this. All right, let's get it done. All right, everybody, so as I said, I really would like to get the audio as wide a soundstage as possible. I'm not really enthusiastic about putting anything in the center. We could do that, but I really would like to get this, get a good wide sound so that it sounds like everything's coming at you when you're going down the street, instead of it kind of being more centralized toward one ear. So in order to do that, I need to get the speakers on the outside, and the only way I can think of doing that in this with soft doors and everything is to get them mounted up in the upper portions of the A pillar and the C pillar. So they're as big as the trucks are, you guys know this as well as I do, there's just not a whole lot of real estate for mounting something like a 6.5, especially something as deep as the KM65s. So what it looks like I'm going to try to do, in order to get these in the upper corner, we're going to have to build some sort of a fiberglass pod to hold the speakers. These are waterproof, or water resistant to an extent. They are marine grade, but still, ideally, if I can get these into a sealed fiberglass pod, we can get them as much protection as possible. I can make them look decent, and we can get us a good mounting surface for the speakers and get something to kind of angle them nicely so they're angling forward and more toward the center to get us that nice big wide sound as we go. So anyway, stick around and let's see if we can get a couple of molds made to hold these speakers in place and get us some fiberglass pods made. All right, let's do it. All right, guys, so what I wound up doing is taking a piece of cardboard and laying it up, cutting myself a little template of the front of the A pillar as it curls down to where the top rails kind of meet, so it sits right here where the rails are and gets that little contour. And I made myself a little template for what I wanted to do, and then I cut out a piece of MDF, 3/4 inch MDF, and I cut it off round about like that and made a little piece out of it, then cut a couple of MDF rings that would fit the 6.5s, and the grill, kind of the circumference of the grill is where the outside edge of the MDF ring is. I didn't video any of that because all it is just cutting MDF, so it's really not that big a deal. I didn't think you guys would be too excited about that. So anyways, made the templates and kind of played around with laying it up in the corner like we talked about earlier, and laid the ring over and kind of played around with the angles, made some measurements to decide kind of where I wanted an angle. So I have an angle kind of, instead of coming straight at me, I have it kind of angling more toward the center. Same thing with the other side, so you get kind of a broader sound, I think, with enough of it angled instead of being straight at me, having a little bit more angle. I think it'll give me a nice wide sound stage without being one side too dominant over the other for anybody in the front of the truck. So anyways, so I went ahead based on that and made two templates, one for the left, one for the right, and put together the template. And then what I wound up doing with this, so you guys are seeing really once I've actually stretched the fabric over the top of it. So all this is white cotton. So I like white stretchy cotton. It takes the form really well how I want it, and it's easy enough to staple in. It stretches real well without ripping or anything like that, but it also takes the fiberglass resin really well. The other good part to this being white, and why I specifically choose white over anything else when I can. It's really, color's not that important, but I like the white simply for the fact that I can see the resin soaking into the fabric a lot easier. With cotton, it's not that big a deal because it's going to soak in pretty easily and it'll be really recognizable when it does. When you're working with something that's a lot more substantial, like something that structurally has to be larger, like fleece, if you're making sub enclosures or a fairly large structure like center console or something like that, which I will be doing in the future, I typically use fleece instead of the cotton. It's significantly thicker. A lot of times with the fleece, you're looking at something that's potentially about 1/16 of an inch thick, especially once it has resin in there. You really will soak up a lot of resin, but that will harden very strong without needing a whole lot more fiberglass reinforcement. With cotton, a lot of times once I'm done with this mold and I start cutting the actual pieces out from the inside, the MDF pieces, I am leaving the ring, but the base I'm going to cut out, the support beam on the inside I'm going to cut out. I will have to go back in there with fiberglass mat on the inside and reinforce, especially a lot of the curves and such. I will have to go in and reinforce that so that it's structurally sound. And then we'll kind of build up the way that I want. Obviously the back wasn't too important. What I was really after more than anything is the visible curves. So the nice round curve on the base, the curve across the bottom, and everything where it kind of wraps up into the ring. Since that's really what you're going to see, is imagine that thing sitting up in the corner like that. So anyway, now that I have these made, I'm going to go ahead and get everything prepped and start doing the fiberglass. So something, nice little trick for you guys that I kind of use with regard to fiberglass resin. Obviously anything you get this stuff on, it's going to bond to, so you don't want it on your clothes. So I do my best to try to keep it from getting on my shoes, getting it on my clothes. I definitely wear gloves. If you guys have never worked with fiberglass resin, once you put that chemical hardener in there and you get that stuff on your skin, it will burn the crap out of you. So not only will it, I'm a hairy MFer here, so obviously I don't want to get in my hair because it's going to solidify my hair, which is not fun, and you'll end up having to shave to get it out. But the big thing is you get it on your skin, it will chemical burn you. So you really don't want to get this on you. You want to be as cautious with it as possible, but you need to move fast once you put the hardener in, otherwise this crap's going to turn to snot before you get it smeared on your fabric and stretched out. One of the other things that I do, and this works on the inside of the mold, and I did it a little bit on the wood piece that I need to pull out here. One good thing about fiberglass resin is it will not adhere to tinfoil very well. So anything you want to be able to peel off of the fiberglass resin, you just wrap in tinfoil. So I've kind of done that to the top of the table. That'll be my work area, so that anything I need is just wrap up, throw it away. It's clean up. I do the same thing for the container that I use, so I can reuse this little plastic top. I'll reuse it over and over again simply by making a little bowl out of tinfoil, mix in the hardener, stir it up, and smear it on with a spatula like that. Little spreader. These little putty spreaders, putty knives, things like that. What I like about these is when I'm done, the fiberglass resin's stuck to it. I can just go in there and crack it real easy and just peel the crap off and just reuse these over and over again. You just don't want to leave them in the hardened resin. It'll be a lot more difficult to do. But anyways, let's get to smearing some fiberglass resin, and once these are covered and saturated and soaked in, we'll let them harden, and then we'll come back in and do some trimming. All right, let's get it done. So molds are all nice and hardened, and it's time to see if we can start cutting pieces out. So what I wound up choosing to do in order to get this close to where I want it, I made the base the way that I want, but I'm actually going to cut off the actual MDF base that I have. Granted, I have a couple supports in there. I'll take screws out, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this off and actually get it as close into the pillar as I can. But I wanted that base in order to get the curves that I wanted here. So let me go ahead and start cutting this off, and we'll move forward from there. All right, so the molds have hardened. Done a little bit of trimming on them and a little bit of sanding. Dropping the speaker in place, everything sits nice, but you'll notice that there's quite a bit of magnet that's hanging out of this one. It's a pretty deep driver. Trimmed everything around to kind of keep everything out of the way of it, but I need to make a back that'll actually accommodate for that magnet structure. So I've got an interesting idea using an old basketball. You guys check this out, I think you'll dig it. All right, so what I've done is I've put the basketball down and kind of wedged it up where it can't move, put a layer of tin foil over it to protect the basketball, kind of taped it in place so it wouldn't really move around on me, and I've laid out another piece of tin foil, kind of turned the edges up so that if I have any runoff it catches and doesn't really bleed all the way down. Laid over a piece of fiberglass mat, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and smear some resin on this. I've got a couple of other strips of fiberglass mat that we'll lay through it and soak into the resin as well, and then once it hardens it should have that nice curve all the way around, and then we should be able to fiberglass to the back of the back of the pod, and we should have that nice curve on the back to accommodate the magnet. Thanks for hanging out. So just a quick wrap up. We built the molds for the speaker pods for 4 of them. Threw some fabric over the top of them, and we slathered some fiberglass around, slung some fiberglass around, made a big old mess, and looks like we managed to make some pods while we were at it. So the round back seems to have worked well, got everything trimmed down, fiberglassed in solid. There are a few other things I need to get doing to this. Obviously they're very, very rough, so we got a lot of sanding to get done, but once these things are sanded down and they're finished up, then I'll do another video on doing the filler on these things and how we get these things smooth enough to prime and paint. So stick with me, and we'll get these pods built up and get them looking nice enough to go in the truck, and even better, we'll get some speakers thrown in them at the end, get them powered up, and we should have some good audio. So thanks for hanging out. I'll see you on the next video. Later.